Hi there. Welcome back to the new video in the Appium tutorial series. In the last video, you have seen about introduction to Appium 2.0. So in this video, we'll be looking into how to set up your machine for Appium 2.0. And for this tutorial, I'll be using MacBook Pro M2 chip. And we'll be setting up our machine for both Android and iOS. So I'll be also talking about what you need to do for your Windows machine. If you are working on a Windows machine, what you need to do. And if you are working on Windows machine, you can skip the iOS part because it will not work on that. So without waiting any further, let's start the today's video. So first we'll do the basic machine setup. So for this machine setup, we'll first install Node.js 18. So to install Node.js version 18, we'll first install NVM. So NVM is a Node version manager tool, which helps you to manage the versions of the Node.js library, which is installed on your machine. So you can switch between the versions if you want to. For example, you can switch from Node 16 to Node 18 seamlessly. So let's check out how to install this Node version manager. So first in the documentation, I'll be sharing the link to this repository in the description box below. So you can check that out. So to install this library, I'll click on install and update the script. And we can use this particular line to install this library. So I'll just copy this command and I'll paste it in the terminal. So in my case, this library is already installed. So I'll skip this part for now, but in your case, you can execute this command, and once it is executed, this library will be installed on your machine. So once you install this library using the curl command, now you need to copy this export commands which are given over here, and you need to paste this command in your bash profile or ZSHRC profile. So these files are normally available in your user profile directory on your machine. You can access that folder by using /, and in that you can access the profile file. It can be bash profile, it can be a ZSHRC, or any of these files available. So you can copy these lines and you can open your profile file. In my case, I'll be opening .zshrc file. So once this file opens, so I've copied these lines, and I'll be pasting these lines over here at the end of this file. I'll save this file and then I'll source the file. So you can use this command to source the file. This will just refresh the profile on your terminal. Now, once this is installed, we can check nvm-v. So it is now displaying the correct version of the NVM. After this, now we need to install the node version. So let's check out the list of node versions supported by this NVM. So we'll use NVM list command to list down all the NVM versions which are available. So as you can see, my machine is already having version 18 installed on my machine. So I'll quickly show you how to install that version. If you are not, if this version is not installed on your machine, you can simply copy this name of the version, which is LTS/hydrogen. We'll copy it, and then you can use NVM install LTS hydrogen. So this will install the version on your machine. So as you can see, there is a new update available in my case. In your case, it will be a fresh installation. So it will be a completely new installation for you. Once this is installed, we'll need to update it as a default version. So you'll use nvm alias default node. So this will set this version 18 as the default version. Now you can confirm that your node version is correct. It is version 18.16.1. Now for Windows machine user and Linux machine users, you can install Node version 18 using the installer, which will be available on the Node.js website. You can download that version 18 installer and install that binary on your machine. Next, we will install JDK 11. Now to install the JDK 11, we'll be using Eclipse Tamarind version. Now to install that, you need to first use this command which is brew tab homebrew slash task versions. So you need to run this command. So let's wait till this command get executed. So now this command has been executed. Now to install the Tamarind version 11 JDK, so we'll be using this command brew install double hyphen cast Tamarind 11. So this will install the JDK 11 version on our machine. In my case, it is already installed, so I don't need to do that. With this version, we'll install this JDK 11 on your machine if it is not installed. So once that is installed, you can simply check Java hyphen version, and it will show you that it is JDK 11.0.19. Now for Windows users, you can download this JDK Tamarind 11 version from their site, which is available over here. I'll be posting this link to this download page in the description box below. So you can access that link and download the appropriate JDK 11 version on your machine. So you can select the operating system and the archetype of your machine, and you can download the installer. So in for Windows users, you download the MSI file and use this installer to install the JDK. Or if you are on Linux, you can download the tar.gz, or you can even use the apt command to install this library. Next, we need to set this Java path in our path variable, environment variable. So for that, I'll open the ZSHRC file again. And in this file, I'll set the Java home environment variable. So you can see I've created a Java home environment variable using this path where this Tamarind 11 JDK got installed. By default on Mac machines, Java JDK versions are installed under this folder, which is library/Java/Java virtual machine. And under that, you can see all the installed JDKs which are installed on your machine. And once I set the Java home, I'll be updating the path variable to add the bin folder to the path variable in order to access the Java command. Next, we'll install the Appium core libraries on our machine. Now to install the Appium library, I'll be using the command npm install -g Appium. So this will install the latest 2.0.0 version on my machine. So let's wait till this library is getting installed. Once this command gets executed, you can run appium-v to check the version of the installed Appium library. So here we can confirm that we have 2.0.0 version installed on our machine. After installing Appium, so I'll be installing one more library for Appium, which will be very helpful for us. It is npm install -g @appium/doctor. This is the Appium doctor library, which is very helpful. We'll take a look at this library in action later on in this video. So after this is installed, we can also confirm the version of Appium doctor which is installed on our machine. We'll use Appium-doctor and we'll use hyphen version. So it is 2.0.21 is the version which is installed. Next, we'll update our machine and set up for our machine for Android. So first, we'll install the Appium driver related to Android. To install Appium driver, we need to use the Appium driver command. Now, with Appium 2.0, the drivers are not getting installed by default, which was happening in Appium 1.x versions. In this, we need to install the Appium drivers explicitly. So here I'll be using Appium space driver space list. So this will list all the drivers which are supported by Appium. So these are the drivers which are available and supported by Appium. You can see all the list of drivers here. As you can see, I have already installed XCUI test driver and UI Automator 2 driver. So XCUI test driver is for iOS platform and UI Automator 2 driver is for Android platform. So in order to install these drivers, you will be using the command appium driver install. And after that, you can give the driver name. So you just need to copy the driver name from this list and paste it here, and it will get installed automatically. So it is already, since it is already installed, if I run this command again, it won't work for me. In my case, what I can do, I can check if there is any updates available for this driver. So what I can do is Appium driver update. So here I can give the driver name UI Automator, and this will check if there is any new updates available. Once it finds that there is a new update available, it will automatically update the driver for me. So if you remember earlier in Appium 1.x, in order to update the driver, we had to wait till the Appium's new version was rolled out. Maybe it was 1.22, 1.22.3 or something. So then only all these drivers would get updated. But with this Appium 2.0, it is not the case. We don't need to wait for any new Appium version. We can directly check for the individual drivers updates and update manually. Next, we need to install Android Studio. So this Android Studio will help us in installing the Android SDK for us, and it will also help us in creating a virtual device. So we can test our applications on that emulator. To download the latest version of Android Studio, this is the link which you can visit and download the latest version. So I'll be posting this link in the description box below. So you can follow this link and download the latest Android Studio Flamingo version. Once this Android Studio is downloaded, you can follow the steps and install the Android Studio. Once this Android Studio gets installed, and when you open that Android Studio, like this, so you will see a similar screen as the one which will be popping up right now. So this will be the screen which you will ideally see once Android Studio is installed. Once this Android Studio is installed, you need to do some operations on it. First, you need to go to SDK Manager. In this SDK Manager, you need to copy this SDK path. Once this path is copied, you will open the profile file. In my case, it is the ZSHRC file. You will open that and you will set that Android home over here in the Android home environment variable. And you will also create Android SDK root environment variable, which will have the same value as Android home. And you will also update the path variable with these different parts, which are from the Android SDK. One is the emulator tools. So before coming to the environment variable setup, you need to also make sure that you have following SDK tools installed. First, you need to make sure that you have Android SDK build tools installed. Then you need to check for Android SDK command line tools. Then for Android emulator, and for Android SDK platform tools. Now there is one more package which is hidden right now. If you would click on this checkbox, it will be visible. So that tool is Android SDK tools obsolete. So this also is required in order for Appium to work properly. So you need to check all these packages and install it by clicking on apply button. Next, we will create Android emulator. Let's check out how we can do that. So in your Android Studio, you will click on more actions and you will click on virtual device manager. Here you can create a new device by clicking on the create device button. Here in the first step, you need to select the device definition. Device definition is a kind of a template for what kind of device you want to create. So there are different devices and different categories. So you can create a mobile phone, you can create a tablet, you can create a Wear OS. Wear OS is a smartwatch, and a desktop application or a TV. There are different categories which are here. In our case, we'll select phone, and we can select any device. I can select Pixel 6 Pro. Once that is selected, I'll click on next. So here you can select any Android image. It can be Android 12, 11, or the latest 13, whatever Android version you want to install, you can select that. Ideally, you would select the Google APIs one, or whichever version it is. So on Mac M2 chip, we need to have select the ARN64 V8A. It is an archetype which we need to select. And once this is selected, you can click on next. Suppose this is not downloaded, then you can click on this download icon over here. So this will help you in downloading this image on your machine. And once it is downloaded, you will select that image and you will click on next. This is the last step where you can give the ABD name. So ABD name is the Android virtual device name which you want to give. You can give any name. And once this name is set, you can click on finish. So I already have created the Pixel 6 Pro device over here with Android 11 version. So that's how you create an Android emulator. And once this is created, you can click on this play button to launch the emulator. So this emulator has been launched. Now, once it is launched, we can safely close this virtual device window, and you can also quit the Android Studio. It is not required anymore. Now let's check the Android setup on our machine. To check the Android setup, we will use the Appium Doctor, which we had installed earlier. Here I will give the command Appium-Doctor space, and then I'll give --Android. So this will check the setup on my machine, and if everything looks fine, it will just give a green tick in front of the steps. As you can see in this diagnostics, it has checked all the necessary dependencies on my machine, and everything is perfectly set on my machine. So I don't need to do anything else, and my machine is ready to automate Android applications. There are another set of optional dependencies here, which you need to understand, and accordingly, if it is required for you to install these, you can install it by following the steps which is highlighted by this Appium Doctor. So first is FFmpeg. So FFmpeg is used for video recording. In case if you want to do video recording of your test, you need to have this library installed on the machine. Second is MJPEG consumer. So this consumer is used for video streaming. You need to, in case if you want to do a live streaming of your test, you can do that by the help of this MJPEG consumer. So another two sets of libraries are also there. Bundle tool, which you can understand why it is required and by going through this documentation link which is provided in this output. Last is the GST launch and GST inspect tool. These are the tools required for image comparisons. So in case if you want to do visual regression with Appium, in that case, it will be required. So you need to install this GST launcher and GST inspect. Now let's see how you can install any application on your Android emulator manually. Now to install any application, Android application on your emulator, you need to have an APK file. So this APK file will be the application which you will be testing. So you can use this APK file and you can simply drag this application to your emulator and drop it over here. So once it is dropped, this application will be installed. So you can see that this WebDriver IO application has been installed. So that's how you install your application manually on the emulator. Now let's set up our machine for iOS. So for this step to work properly, you need to have a Mac machine. It will not work on Windows. So if you are having a Windows machine, you can skip this section. So similar to Android, we will be installing the iOS driver. So again, we'll check the list of drivers. We'll be using Appium driver list. So here you will be selecting the iOS specific driver to install. You can use the XCode test driver, and you can install this on your machine by using the command Appium driver install XCode test. So this also is installed on my machine. You can execute it, and it will install the XCUI test driver on your machine. So I'll try to update the driver in case if there is any update available. In this case, the XCUI test has an update available, which is now getting installed on my machine. So after installing driver, we need to now set up Xcode. So let's install the Xcode. So to install the Xcode, you will open in the App Store. In your App Store, you will search for Xcode. So this is the Xcode which you need to install. It is already installed on my machine. It is a kind of a almost 12 GB setup. So it will take some time depending on the network speed which you are working on. And you can you can start installing, and once it is installed, it will automatically install the simulator for you. So let's check out Xcode. When you first install the Xcode, it will show you pop up like this. So when you open it, so here we will select by default Mac OS and iOS. We'll click on install and we'll put our machine password. So this will help in installing any additional components which is required by Xcode. Now we'll try to open the Xcode again. So this time the Xcode has launched. If you notice that the UI is not loading, you can see the menu for Xcode here. It is still loading to start. You will see a UI similar to this. You can click on Xcode. Now there are different developer tools available. So you can see that all these tools are automatically installed for you. So you can click on simulator to launch the simulator. So there are a bunch of devices already created for you. You don't need to create any simulator on your own like we did for Android. Here it is all these devices which are supported by Xcode are automatically created for you. You just need to launch the version. So you can see this simulator has no UI yet. So we need to open the device. You can select any device from here. There are iPad and iPhones available. So we can select, let's take an example of iPhone 14. I'll click on that and this will launch the iPhone 14 simulator. So this is how this device looks once it's loaded. Now we'll be installing the supporting libraries which are required for the iOS automation. So in your Xcode only, you need to go in the developer tools, and you will need to click on more developer tools. So once you click this option, this Apple website will be opened, and you need to download the Xcode command line tool. Once you are logged in, you will see a list of tools which are available for Xcode, and you need to download the corresponding command line tool for the version of Xcode you have installed on your machine. You can check the Xcode version here. It is 14.3.1. So accordingly, we need to download the Xcode version. So once you scroll down, you will see the tool command line tools for Xcode 14.3.1. So you can download this tool by going to the view details and clicking on the command line tools for Xcode 14.3.1 DMG. So once you click on this, you will download this command line tools on your machine, and you can follow the installer setup and install this command line tool. On my machine, it is already installed, so I won't be doing this step in front of you. After installing command line tool, you need to also install one library called Carthage. So for installing Carthage, you need to use brew install Carthage. So this tool is also required by Appium for performing iOS automation. So you need to make sure that this library has been installed. In my case, it is already installed, so it is not reinstalling for me. So after setting up the supporting libraries, we can also check the iOS simulator, which we already did. So we won't be doing this again. The last step is checking the iOS setup. Similar to Android setup, we'll check for iOS setup. We'll be using Appium-Doctor. And in this case, we'll be using iOS instead of Android. And we'll click enter. Now this will check for all the necessary dependencies, whether it is set up properly on the machine or not. So as you can see, this all the necessary dependencies are installed properly. all the mandatory dependencies are properly installed. And here also FFmpeg is used for performing video recording. MJPEG consumer is for video streaming. So I have also installed IDB and IDB companion. So you can check out the link. Means if you have not installed on your machine, you will see the link over here in this manual fixes section. So you can follow that link and install the IDB and IDB companion. So it is a replacement for a WebDriver agent. If you are aware that WebDriver agent has been deprecated by Facebook, and they have created a new library for the same purpose. It is called IDB. Next is Apple Sim Utils. This also is required to perform automation on iOS simulators. So you need to also install this Apple Sim Utils. So you can follow the links which are provided in this manual fixes section. So just to give you one more brief, this iOS deploy is required when you're automating on a real device. So in my case, I am not automating on a real device. I'll be using iOS simulators. So I'll be only using Apple Sim Utils here. So in case if you are automating on a real iOS device, then you need to install this iOS deploy as well. Last thing to check is the how you will install an application on the iOS simulator. So let's check that out. Now the simulator supports the .app file. This app file you need to install on your simulator. In case if you are automating on a real device, then you will require the .ipa file. So here I have .ipa file which is related to a real device, and .zip file is for a simulator. So this zip file contains the app file .app file. So here I'll just double click on this to unzip the file. Here you can see that this app file has been unzipped. Now in my simulator, I can directly just drag and drop this application and it will get installed. So you can see this application has been installed. If I click on this application, it will launch, and that's how you install your application on simulator. Now, since our machine is now set up for running Appium, now let's start Appium server on our machine. To start Appium server, we will be using the Appium server command. So similar to Appium driver command, we are having a Appium server command as well. So here you can execute the Appium server command using the --help flag, which will list all the helper arguments which this particular command uses. Now you can start the Appium server by running Appium space server, and then you can give address, which is localhost, and you can provide the port number on which you want to start the Appium server. In this case, it will be 4723, and you can also provide the driver name which you want to launch. In this case, we are using the Android driver, which is a UI Automator 2. And here you can give the base path. So this base path flag is optional. If you want, you can skip it, and you can also give any path you want. For example, in my case, I can give /Vasa, and it will consider that path along with the local host and the port number. So this Appium server will then be running on the URL on the address and the port which we have provided, along with the base path which we have provided. If you don't give any base path, then it will not consider any base path. Only the IP address and the port number will be used in that case. So let's check this out. I press enter, and this will start the Appium server on my machine. So when automating, I'll be just using this URL to automate. So you'll be passing this URL to your driver instance to connect to this Appium server. Now, in case if you want to activate all the drivers, instead of just Android driver, you can give all here in the lowercase. So for example, I can use the same command, and here instead of the driver name, I can give all, or I can skip the driver flag itself. Then also it will consider all the installed drivers. So here you can see that it loaded both XCode test driver and the UI automated root driver. And the instance is running on this particular URL, which you can use to connect to the server. So that's it for this video on setting up your machine for Appium. In the next video, we will be looking into how to use Appium inspector to inspect the elements and interact with the application. So subscribe to the channel to get notified whenever the new video gets posted on the channel. So you can check out the previous video on Appium introduction over here. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.